Hi everybody, I'm back with another video after several years. So I just wanted to kind of go through my process of hand painting these uh, ridiculously uh, over stylized daggers. I got some over here and I kind of broke down the workflow I used for each one of these. It's the same one for each one. Um, I don't have a script for this video, that's why it's free. The quality isn't going to be the highest. um, but I just kind of wanted to go through my workflow in a fairly quick way just so um, it's out there, and I think this is probably better than writing like a massive thing for each one of these stages. A little bit more comfortable for me because I'm a little bit more used to doing this sort of thing. So yeah, this is kind of what the final result will look like. So invert, yeah, there we go, that looks a bit better. Actually, I think I had this, yeah, black background, so they really pop. Um, yeah, so those are kind of like the final things. I kind of had a theme of reclaimed swords. So the idea was it would be an old sword in the environment of, say, a jungle or a mummy's tomb or something, or whatever. And then magical beings from that realm kind of overtook that sword and are reusing it. So the tree people are using vines, the bone people are using bones, and whatever, doing something over there. And so I started with these lines, um, and I mean, again, I don't have a plan for this video, so I don't know how long each of these segments is going to take. But so for the lines, I kind of just wanted to talk a little bit about design while I do these. I'll see if I can maybe like draw one while I'm doing this. I'm just going to lock these layers. And if people are curious too, usually when I'm sketching these rougher designs, I kind of set my pen to be really, really soft. So the tip is soft, which means that when I'm drawing, I don't need a lot of pressure to draw really heavy lines. And this kind of depends on how confident I'm feeling at that very moment. So, if I've been doing a lot of drawing lately, oh, see ya. If I've been doing a lot of drawing lately, then I usually have this at the more soft range because I feel more comfortable dropping in my lines. But if I haven't drawn in a while and I'm just not that confident for whatever reason, then I'll kind of set it to a bit more firm, and then it takes a lot more strength for me to draw those darker lines. So I'm going to drop it in around here. Let's minus that. Anybody else is curious too, I have front button set to pan scroll, and my right mouse button is the back button on my pen. Okay, so I think any art video is going to tell you the most important step is gathering reference. None of this stuff happens in a vacuum. Like I think most artists don't just like go here and start drawing stuff and make it look awesome. I think there's a bit of research involved. So there's a few things you can research. I look at real life weapons sometimes and see how they're constructed, but also I don't want to be too constrained by these real life things because I also really like the really ridiculous and stupid designs in World of Warcraft. I think they're awesome. But and they don't make sense sometimes, but that's okay because it's all about just the shapes and designs, and I don't know, does it look cool? So I kind of just got this image of a sword breakdown, just showing the different pieces. I think one of the nice things about I think one of the nice things about drawing daggers or like swords or anything like that, for one thing, there's not a lot of perspective involved. It's just a flat. It's a flat image. Everything is happening on the front and the back. There's nothing happening on the side design-wise. So there's a couple downsides of that too. Is that if you're drawing the side view of a sword, you're not really thinking about the designs happening on the side. And I think there's a lot of opportunity on the side of a sword to put some cool stuff. So if you want to challenge yourself, maybe go in, drop some perspective lines or whatever, and kind of those are terrible, but kind of draw it in perspective instead, and that'll give you a bit more, I guess, a little bit more freedom with your design. So usually draw a straight line down. Think about what you want to draw. So I'm going to draw. I think for this video I'm just going to do something symmetrical so it's faster. At least I can get the idea across. Put some cuts in here. I try to have a flow to my line. So if I'm drawing this line that's coming down, I try to continue it like that. I also try to avoid parallel lines when I'm doing stylized stuff. So, this kind of tapers at the bottom more than it does at the top. And then this line here is going to kind of inform other design decisions I make. So, even if I erase this part, put that notch in there. it's still going to continue this straight line here, and I think this is a little bit easier on the eyes when stuff like this happens. So for like another example, if I go in here and I just draw a circle like that, the worst circle, this little curve here, you know, I can cut it off at the bottom. That's fine. Whatever happens here doesn't matter. But what's cool about this circle is I can now continue the shape and maybe put the cross guard over here like this. And look at this cross guard now, kind of captures that same angle. I'm not sure if there's a name for whatever I'm doing, but I just find it nice when there's a flow. And this one, the original sketch for this bone one, I feel like I had a much better flow than the final render. This one here is probably the best example. All of these points go to one spot, like do. If I continue these points, they all kind of go to like a spot like that. And that's a little bit offset, which makes it feel a little bit more natural. But yeah, as soon as you introduce contradicting lines, like we have a point going this way and a point going this way, and then we've got like a circle going here, and then we've got like a little W shape over here, and then like goes down like this, and then for some reason there's like a face on the side. It's like, what is this? This design doesn't mean anything. It's stupid. It's a stupid design. There's no theme involved. And I will concede that I think these designs I did, probably the biggest problem is that they're just too boring in their theme. Like this one's just bone. It's kind of boring. I think this one's probably the most exciting because there's a lot of material stuff in there. So again, you don't want to become too trapped in the idea of repeating shapes, because when you do that too much, then you just get these boring, lame-o designs. I don't like this anymore. I'm just going to leave this. Doing this live is kind of tricky because I kind of like to sit down for an hour and draw a bunch of these first. But you know, let's do something like this. Okay, so watch this. As I flare these shapes out, I don't know what these are doing, but I do know that they have a flow. They all kind of go in like a similar direction, and so, you know, maybe this little notch I had in the start, I'm actually going to pull it down to this point. This is going to continue like this. I'm going to draw a straight line in the middle. Something's going to happen over here maybe. There's going to be some like little, I don't know. I hope this is useful. Also don't have like a ton of time for this video, so I'm kind of rushing. These days are busy. Oh yeah, see, I like this little doodad. You know, when I'm drawing these sorts of things, function takes a back seat, and I just want the design to be the most important thing. Having said that, I think the coolest designs usually come from really functional objects. The more functional something is, I feel like the design is always cooler because of that. But sometimes, like, trying to be too functional is just boring, and you lose the fun and the life of drawing things. I don't know, some sort of Elven blade. Oh, there we go. Look at this, right there. Man, I'll keep that. I think I like this. And you can also repeat curves too. So, you know, if I decide to break this flow, I'm probably going to grab one of these. Just bring it over here. I could leave it like this, but I might just reverse it horizontal. You know, now I kind of got the same design language throughout the whole thing. I'm not introducing a new type of curve. Yeah, there we go. Actually, on the topic of curves, I'll post a link in the description, but this artist, Becca Rose, she just posted a bunch of techniques and just ideas that are super useful, and one of the ones that kind of blew my mind was the idea of curves. And yeah, I'll post a link to this in the video description, but basically she kind of describes her curves like, you know, this is boring because it's symmetrical, it's very unnatural. If you take the same curve and you just kind of move the highest point down a bit, I've got the sag going on. So if you can think about every one of your curves implementing that sort of thing while balancing all these other design ideas, that's always good. You also notice I have a bunch of detail happening right around here. This isn't an accident, it's intentional. I'm gonna move this up too. The reason is because a lot of times when I'm drawing now, I try to think about the idea of the rule of thirds, like the golden ratio sort of thing, which is, you know, around here. So I think the number is like, the ratio is like 1.6 or whatever, but basically if you take this piece, this smaller chunk, and you duplicate it, you should be able to duplicate it and then put another half or so on top. So you should be able to have something like this. So the top ratio should look this much, the bottom ratio should be this much. And you can kind of repeat this pattern going down as well. And I just eyeball it. I don't measure this. Please don't measure this. That'd be so boring. Go like this, move it up. So I'm just gonna, there we go. We're gonna meet the middle over here. So something important has to happen here. And I think that important thing is going to be the top of the cross guard. So I'm just going to move this down. You know, maybe here we'll have a material separation. I think that'd be a good spot for that. That's good. I'm really starting to dislike this little point here. You know why? I think it's because it's the only thin, pointy thing on this object so far, so it kind of sticks out. That's okay. Just remember that whenever you have a contrast in design, or shape, or color, or value, or line edge flow, whenever you have a contrast there, it's going to draw attention. And just use that knowledge to your power. Like it's like sometimes that's bad, but sometimes it can also be good. Because maybe I want this to be the most important part. It'll be like diamond tipped, super blade of the Elven district of Gobbledygook. So the bottom's kind of the pommel. I think it kind of acts as like a counterweight. So that's why you usually see these little dangly bits at the bottom. Put a circle here, plus circular shapes happening. You know, rather than having a perfect thickness, this distance is perfectly thick all the way around. Let's do something a little bit more fun where we just kind of, maybe it's thinner on the sides and wider at the bottom. And then put some sort of thing like that. Nice. Grab this, Control-Alt-E, Control-T, right-click, flip horizontal, drag it in, bada bing, bada boom. Okay, now we just kind of have like a little bit of a sanity check and make sure this doesn't look too stupid. And turns out it doesn't look too stupid. It does look kind of stupid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually again, I have no plan for this video. I'm so sorry for all the delays. And, you know, it's not going to be great, but hopefully there's some interesting stuff in here. Alright, so now we've kind of got this breakup of details. I'm not sure if I like this. So you know what happens when I add this design up here? You know what happens? If I draw a line from the bottom of this design to the top over here, I grab these, that distance is almost the same as the base of the sword, which is almost the same as the cross guard, which is almost the same as the handle. Like, I'm getting these really even chunks, so I'm just going to add some more contrast there. And, you know, maybe pinch this up the top, or actually, oh, look at that. But you know what, if we do that, then I think that's going to break the flow of the lines that I initially laid in, so I'm going to, you know, we'll just play it a little safe with this. We'll take out some of these designs. And we'll move the cross guard down a little bit or something. You know, there's not going to be a lot of detail in here because this is just all the blade. Remember, if you have a big, large, flat area, you can usually afford to have about 30% of it. Oh, look, it's that same ratio. It's happening again. You can usually afford to have about like 30% of it be details. So, like, if I have a plain piece of wood and it's got some stains on it, you know, something like that. And then within each of these stains, you can kind of play that same ratio again. So maybe within each of these stains, there's like, maybe the stains have stains. And notice how I'm like bundling details where other things are. They're kind of like acting like anchors for the rest of the design. Neil Blevins explains this really well. I'll post a link to his stuff as well. And we'll put some asymmetry here with some, you know, classic stylized fabric wraps. Everybody's favorite. I love drawing these. Just get these simple planar shapes happening. Whiskers is fine, by the way. I think she's just chilling on my knee. Just a little bit camera shy, who knows. I don't like this thing. I think that was originally, I was thinking about maybe doing a gem there, but it's too tiny. It's so little. There we go. Get big. Oh, getting in there, kind of chunky. All right, so the other thing with stylized stuff is you want to have plane changes. And so at this stage when I'm doing these sketches, I'm not really thinking about plane changes too much. I'm mostly just thinking about silhouette more than anything. Silhouette and, you know, placement of design. So I'll take my eraser, just kind of go over the whole thing, just erase what I drew. Grab my brush again. And what time are we at? 16 minutes, oh god. I mean, I wanted to keep this under an hour, but I don't know if I'll be able to. We'll see. So we want to talk a little bit about line thickness. So I usually put thicker lines at the bottoms of things. So, you know, where this tapers down. It's kind of creates like a fake shadow. It's creating like a fake cast shadow. And you can also put thick lines where you want to call attention to details. But whatever you do, don't put a bunch of thick lines on areas with lots of details. Like, don't cover all this with thick lines, because it's just going to be this visually noisy disaster. So please, be careful. Play safe. I'll rotate this down like this. See, when you start adding the second layer of detail, you kind of come up with these cool little things. Like, I like this little notch here. Shade it a little bit. You don't have to shade at this stage either. Like, this stage is just kind of to help you when you start rendering it. So whatever you need to do, like if you really suck at rendering, then maybe spend a little extra time on this stage and define every shape to your liking. So you're not stuck when it comes to having to render. Oh yeah, look at, okay, I'll zoom in on this. Sometimes I like, you just draw these little things and you just get so excited. You're like, oh, that looks so cool. It's so unintentional. And the more you do this, the more you kind of see this happening the rest of your work. And I like this little turn here. Like if I shade this darker, see that little flare? Probably a little ridge here. Like this. Yeah. Okay, what I'm doing right now is called noodling. You don't want to noodle. Stay focused. Stupid magic gem here. Let's have some flares coming up the side like this. It still makes me uncomfortable. It makes me really uncomfortable seeing this thin little piece up here. You know, I'm gonna watch this video later and be like, Julio, you could have fixed it. There's an answer, there's a solution. What if I just erase this? Let's not forget these. I'm already spending way longer on this drawing than I did the other ones, and I think it's because I didn't do any warm-up sketching first. These ones are super quick. Like, there's like bam, bam, bam. You can kind of tell there's not a lot of messiness going on. I just kind of went to town and started drawing these. Oh, it's going too low. Just to here. Fabric wraps take care of the rest. Remember, stylized things Love to have plane changes. Let's take... Oh, there we go. See how this distance is thicker than this distance? I like that. That is appealing. And here, maybe add some more stuff. It's like, as I'm drawing this, I'm constantly kind of bouncing back at like my little rules of thirds chart or whatever. And I'm thinking about like, you know, people have to hold this, and I'm thinking about material separation, and there's like a million things you have to kind of consider when you're drawing. It's not just like, oh, I'm just gonna go in here and draw some fun little lines, and it's gonna be really relaxing and chill, and you know, I'm just gonna have some fun. You know, it is fun, but it's also a lot of thought goes into these things too. Like, I don't want to create this illusion that it's like just this magical thing happening. I also want to say I think anybody can do this. I don't think there's anything crazy special with doing stuff like this. I want to explain every kind of thought process going in my head while I'm drawing, so I kind of get rid of any of those, you know, mystical things happening. I don't like this. I do not like that. I don't like this. This is the only area that's like a perfect circle shape. But you know, if we just cut out like a half moon at the bottom or something. This seems to be all about these half moon things. I got these circle shapes, and they never go all the way around. You know, you kind of just, you know, nip them at the butt there. You don't want to let them grow too long. That seems to be kind of the design theme on this thing. So it's more short little. Yep, we'll just make it a blade. When in doubt, make it a blade. It's gonna be a sharp, pointy thing. Players are gonna love it. Oh yeah. There we go. Nice. It's kind of like playing a game. Like each of these little things I'm talking about in terms of designing, it's like a mini boss or something. And every time you solve one of those problems, like one of those puzzles, those design puzzles, you're kind of like, ooh, that felt good. And you kind of learn it a little bit while you're doing it too, I think. Also keep in mind I've done, so if anybody's following along and yours feel like you're really struggling with this, keep in mind this is like the 13th kind of sword I've drawn in the past 2 weeks. I've been really obsessed lately. I don't know why. So I'm pretty comfortable doing this by now. I say pretty comfortable. I mean, I don't want to sound cocky. I think there's still a lot for me to learn here. And if anybody has experience doing this kind of stuff, or they work for a game studio and they design new concept art, I'd love to hear your opinions, and you know, tell me what you'd change about this design. Like, what areas you think are just so stupid that you want me to change, or they're really bugging you. You can tell me. Okay, so let's take a step back. Yeah. Wow, he's gonna have to. Person holding this, like their hands. That's just. I don't know if that's gonna work. I'll do this. Grab this. Again, I don't want this distance, so the wraps. Let's say the wraps start here. The wrap starts here. I kind of don't want this distance to match up with too many other things. If I grab this, I go over here. Yeah, it doesn't match up with the top of this, so that's good. That's good. It seems kind of weird because like I'm going in and I don't want this shape to match up with anything else, even though I've been talking all this time about, you know, you want to repeat shapes and angles and stuff, but you also, like, if everything's evenly spaced, it's more about spacing than anything. If everything's, I just draw like a little square over here. Let's say we have these shapes. This one's dark, this one's kind of medium, this one's light. Let's draw this again, but this time let's make the light one really small. We'll make the medium one, wait, no, even better. We'll make the light one slightly smaller. We'll make the medium one a lot smaller. We'll make the dark one really, really big. This feels more alive to me. This is more, this is a very simple breakdown of kind of what's going on in my head when I look at these shapes and what I want to see. So now it feels like the dagger is just too damn short. Like it's gonna poke somebody and want to inflict a lot of damage. It's gonna be very sad. Make it longer. Of course, if I do this, I just want to do a double check. I've already broken a lot of things that I initially laid down, but I mean, whatever. Make it thinner, completely change my initial theme. Alright, there we go. Lost a little weight, grew a little taller. Actually, I guess this makes more sense. Now it kind of matches the other ones. Okay, it's been 30 minutes and I've drawn a sword. Okay, so those are the lines. Those are the lines, I'm calling them done. So now I'm going to go in with my polygonal lasso tool, and I'm going to go in and put this in here. Okay, then I'm going to Control Alt drag this layer right like that. I'll hide my line group, open up my lines and masks group, drop in my lines and masks group like that, and then I'll hit the little mask button like that. So make a new layer. Make a new layer, hit the mask button, drop this underneath, fill this layer with black, something like that. Invert the mask, Control I, D for brush, actually L for lasso, and then go in here and start selecting it. You know, one thing I can fix, this is like every stage, don't be afraid to fix things. Like, don't get too attached to your initial stuff. What I'm going to fix here is I kind of like what I was drawing, but I didn't like how it felt so straight. I want a bit more of a taper here. So I'm going to do this. And I really like low poly stuff. If anybody knows me personally, they know. Oh, fuck. Okay. If anybody knows me personally, they know that I love low poly stuff. So I think I tend to have this like low poly stylization in my art, where I try to imagine if this was a 3D model, where the 3D artist would be putting polygons. Yeah, see, I don't like this little circle. It's so tiny. It's the tiniest thing breaking the silhouette. But you know what? It might be okay because I've got these little other tiny notches over here. So if I leave this alone, it should be fine. So I'm just basically drawing a mask. If you don't know what a mask is, oh no, I forgot to draw the fabric wraps. Okay, that's okay. It's okay, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Then go Control Backspace on this mask, see that? Control Backspace will kind of fill it with white because it's my background color. And now this part of the sword, oh yeah, sorry, so if you don't know what a mask is, it's basically, it's kind of a, like imagine you have a layer with something on it, and then you have a mask on top of the layer. And everything in the mask that you paint that's white, masks are only black and white, anything that's white in this mask will make that visible on this layer. So anything that's black will hide this layer. So white is on, black is off. I'm just going to quickly sketch in the fabric wraps. I think I really like fabric wraps, and I like painting them. And again, probably the main reason for adding these is because we need more material separation. I mean, we don't need more, but I think it'd just be cool. Stop using these like concrete words, it's absolutes. This. And you know, a dagger like this or a sword like this, it looks like it belongs to like the Prince of King Tyronius or something, and like it's very fancy in design. And then this wrap looks like somebody just kind of went around and wrapped some fabric around it. So I'm not too happy. I'm just going to call that out now. I think this part of the design isn't great what I'm doing, these wraps. But I kind of want to show how to render interesting wraps like this, because I mean, so many things in concept art have bandage wraps and stuff. And they're just fun, and it's material breakup, so why not? Let's go in here. So I'm back on my mask using my selection tool. I don't know what the average attention span is for somebody watching a video like this. If you're really bored, like maybe what I'll do is I'll like put markers in the video, and then you can just go to the areas you want to see. I don't know. What do I do? Do I keep this? No, I do not keep it. I'll cut this hole out after, I think. Alright, so if I go Control Backspace on this, I'll fill it with white. I could also go Control I to invert it, but if you invert it, oops, accidentally opened. If you invert it, it's going to be like, see this? Anything that was part of that selection will get inverted too. So rather than invert, Control Backspace. Deselect. Control, I have my zoom and zoom out to set to Control W and Control E because they're closer to all those, like when I'm using Control Z and all those other buttons. If I set it to Control W and Control E, it's just a bit more quicker to access. All right, so I'm just gonna make a selection of this mask. Go Control Alt Shift. So in case you don't know, Control moves something. Control Alt moves and duplicates something, and Control. So yeah, sorry. So Control moves stuff, like in anything in Photoshop. Alt will duplicate stuff. Shift will snap things. If you hold down Control to move, Alt to duplicate, and Shift to snap, then when you're duplicating it, it'll stay in a straight line like that. And you can go Control T, right click, flip horizontal, drag it in. But see, I selected part of the black in the selection, so you know, kind of the downside about doing this on a mask is you're not gonna have this excess. So what I want to do is, oh geez, why did I decide to do this in real time? Do this like this. Yeah, that looks good. Let me grab this guy, Control Backspace. No. X, Control Backspace, and then X again. X will switch my foreground and background color, which are automatically set to white and black when you have a mask, by the way. Alright, so let's see what this looks like without the lines distracting us. Kind of like it. I also kind of don't like it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break the symmetry here. I'm going to go with my selection tool, grab this area, paint black, get rid of it. I'm going to add more fabric wraps. I'm kind of imagining what these, wait, I don't have to imagine what those look like. I have a drawing. So I'm going to, ooh, you know what? I don't think this lines up properly. This is why I don't make paid tutorials. There we go. What I just did wasn't great. I kind of scaled my mask. And when you do that, like watch, I scale this, those edges become a little bit blurry. So my entire mask just got slightly blurrier. Just kind of upsetting, but I can always just go into my levels and sharpen it up after. Alright, let's go here. This. I want to make sure that each side is kind of unique. I don't want... I mean, this is the only place where I'm breaking symmetry. Anybody that's done any kind of drawing or design, like, they know that breaking symmetry is pretty important. Unless you're trying to draw like a really beautiful face. But even then, I think it... Ooh, see, I was painting on the layer, not the mask. Oh geez, 35 minutes in. I got nothing to show yet. Okay. Sketches, mask, done. Let's go into values. So values, I'm just going to kind of Control Alt Shift drag this over here. I'll grab my lines and put them over there too. Hide this layer, I'm done with that stage. So I'm on the value stage. If you look at these guys, you kind of see I've just dropped in some rough shading. So if I set this color, I want it to be 100% opaque. I'll go Control U to change the lightness. Nice mid value, something like this. A little bit lighter if you want. Change the opacity of my lines so they're not so intense. This is where the fun begins. Kind of grab your brush. Opacity's on. Oh, you know what? This is where I go to my pen tablet. I change it more towards a firm setting. This means that now I can get those nice light shapes. I'm also going to change my brush so it doesn't shape dynamics. I also don't want it to get too small because I hate having these little squiggles, like when you're drawing these little like tiny lines. I just want to block in big shapes right now, so the smallest I want it to get is about half its size. Oh, my back. Okay, so the sun comes in from this angle. Also, I tend to light things from this angle, so top left, in front of the object, shining down, and then always you put like a rim light coming from the bottom, right? You can do what suits you, though. You do you. I think it's kind of interesting because you can kind of see different artist styles within there. Oh, you know what? This is one other thing I should have to do too. I kind of copied this mask and I put it on the line layer as well. See? Now all my lines are trapped up in here. And I was gonna say with lighting habits, you can kind of see an artist's style. Like this mask, this one. Like that's a good example. I guess like any Russian artist ever has like really dark paintings. You can usually tell if it's a Russian artist. Like just the most incredible paintings you've ever seen, but they're always like really dark and gritty, and I love them. Or something like Anthony Jones, I think is probably a more popular example. I think he tends to light his things from like a front camera view. And in these ones, actually, you know what, to be honest, I was kind of lighting these from the camera view as well. I was lighting these as if they're objects in ZBrush, so what the shader would look like on them. So anything slightly facing away from the camera or your eyes is going to be slightly darker. And if it's facing away a lot, it's going to be really dark. The only reason I don't want to do that with this one is entirely because this one is symmetrical. It's already symmetrical. It's already more boring than these ones because it's symmetrical. So if I have boring lighting as well, this isn't a bad thing. I'm not saying like I love front-on lighting, but if I have that kind of lighting on something that's already symmetrical, it's dead. It's sad. It's sad. So I'm gonna pick my top left. Okay, top left. So this area is gonna be kind of dark, but it's still pointing up, I guess. So because it's pointing up, it's still gonna be slightly lighter. Oh God, I'll tell you now, I have not studied values enough in order to be a good teacher on this sort of thing. I'd recommend just going through James Gurney's books on this and study them harder than I did, because this kind of stuff gets really complicated, I think. I don't know. I haven't looked into it enough. You know, this is metal, right? So it's not going to light the exact same way as something else. We're still going to get reflections in here, but just for starters, just get us started. I think this is the right idea. It's the bottom. You know, and I think this is kind of cutting in and curving. It's curving in first and then coming out. So first it's going to be really dark, and then we're going to get this like gradient into light at the bottom. See? Now isn't that something? Then we can go in here and maybe darken this one too. Because not only is this one facing down on one angle, it's kind of facing down on another angle as well. It's like curved in. I hope this is making sense. I hope this doesn't sound like gibberish. You know, this is facing to the side, and this little spot right here is almost the exact same angle as this spot right here. So I can just color pick this, drop that in there like that, and golden. You know what? And I think my set is a bit softer. You know, one thing I've been trying to do lately with my paintings too, and I'm not great at yet, but I want to try to get more painterly look. So I don't want to have these smooth gradients. I really like it when you can kind of see here, like when I was painting this fruit, you can see one stroke, one stroke, one stroke like that. I really like that. I like that kind of texture style. You can kind of see it here too. One thing, it also saves time too, because you don't have to like render everything perfectly. I'm already spending too long on that. All right, this is a good example here, this curve. It's facing down. And not only does it face down, it faces away from the camera too. So this side here is gonna be really dark. And then it'll kind of get the same color as this one here. Not color, value. Black. I kind of want to go to full black. You know, maybe my base value wasn't right. So I feel like I'm not getting enough contrast in this curve. Side's facing up, so it's going to face the light. And this side's going to face down. I kind of like this little area here. This is groovy. I think this could inform a lot more design decisions if I do like a full armor set or something. Face this inwards. I mean, you really want to get these shapes to look like they're 3D, so it helps the 3D artist. Also, I'm mostly a 3D artist. That's what I do for work. I'm a 3D artist, so when I'm drawing, I try to think about what I'd like to see from the concept artist when I'm modeling. What do I find helpful? Blur is getting a little freaky to me. Feels like some sort of, you know, Witch King sort of shit happening over here with these like spiky bits and these little holes. Not 100% sold on that yet. Okay, diamond, bottom facing down, this one's facing up. This one's directly facing the light, so I don't need any shadow there. It's facing down. I mean, a lot of, if you watch my other videos, this is pretty much what I was doing with the hand-painted brick tutorial. Also, sorry, I didn't really put any memes in this one. I don't have Nicolas Cage. I did make a Nicolas Cage brush though, so maybe we'll use that to textures. No, you won't. No, I have to stop. I'm already getting too detailed. Like, look at these. I'm drawing these little. No, nobody cares. We don't need those. All I need right now is just some rough shading, because that's all going to come back when I start rendering. I already spent way too long on this. Usually I should be done this stage by now. You know, bottom of cloth, bottom of cloth, bottom of cloth, bottom of cloth, bottom of cloth. And then, you know, I'll pick a softer value, maybe a little bit later. Oh, it's the same as this. Here. this. Okay, there we go. All right, so whenever a piece of fabric's facing down, it's going to be slightly darker like that. Since these are wrapped, I'm trying to get that tautness nice and taut. But I don't want too much contrast here, remember, because this isn't the shining star of my concept. It's just a fabric wrap. Settle down with that design. Oh my God, just keep it nice and simple, like that. It's already starting to look 3D almost, kind of. The other side of this. This is facing down. Usually want to listen to music while you're doing this too, a little bit. Just a little bit, not too loud. Sometimes I find if I'm trying to design something and I have music playing, I almost get too into what I'm drawing and I kind of stop thinking a little bit. And when you're designing stuff, I think it's important to think about what you're designing. I guess until you've done like so many that you're comfortable doing it, you don't have to think too much about it. Oops. Again, it depends on who you are, what kind of work you're doing, and all that kind of jazz. I want to do this. I feel like this is risky. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try adding a little transition here. So it's like this surface is kind of curved. I dig it. Okie dokie. And in any shaded areas, you can have a bit of ambient occlusion as well. So if you want, you can go in with a tighter brush and kind of paint these little black dots. And again, these are just kind of anchors when you start painting the actual colors. I'm just using these as little markers to be like, hey, this area is like really covered in a lot of shadow, so I can afford to put a lot of shading here. Like that. And I kind of want to have lots of shading here. You know why? Because I have this magic gem from the land of Zimzar, and it's going to glow bright colors. And in order to make the glow more impressive, I want to put contrast around that area. So by adding these dark shadows here, it's aiding the design, and it's also aiding the contrast that will inevitably happen there. We kind of put darker lines wherever materials separate as well. I'm kind of doing it here. Line here, line here. This isn't great. Like I said, I drew a straight line there. Should try and avoid those. Depends on the style of the game again, but I've been looking at a lot of World of Warcraft stuff lately. I feel like they tend to do a really good job of avoiding straight lines. Go into my mask. I'm gonna cut up this hole. Do. There we go. I feel like that crossguard is pretty weak. But I'm not going to change it, so I just want to get the workflow down. I feel like I've talked enough about design. Okay, so we've got all these pieces. Now what I kind of do is I'll drag them over to the colors. Actually, before we do that, let's just add a quick layer on top. Same mask. And I'm going to grab a darker color. Maybe I'll use the darker color for this. Oh my god, it's so dark. Why would you do such a thing? But it's okay, because the opacity is going to be very low. Maybe like that. Okay, and then I'm going to go out to the top piece. We'll go to this little gem too. Go to this bottom piece. And I'm going to paint white. Same mask on top. Holding down Control to select these masks, by the way. Oh dear, power in almost. Okay, then I can kind of grab this opacity, put that down a little bit. You can kind of see it's the full white is overlapping everything evenly, but if I set it to overlay, it's going to keep some of that contrast in there. So I'm going to kind of do that and then play the opacity a little bit. At this stage, I kind of like to grab my background. Make it a little bit darker. There we go. Let me make it pop. Make it pop. And then we'll go here, grab all these. Got like a kind of decent value range in there. Merge them all together. With that selection still there, hit mask again, hide my values, we're done. Go into my colors, drag it into here, make a new layer, grab the mask, click the layer, hit the mask button, grab your brush. I usually set my brush to, oops. I don't set it to whoops, I usually set it to, set the layer to overlay, and I turn off opacity. That way I'm filling in like solid colors. Just go in here and kind of pick your favorite colors. I don't really know what color this should be. Let's keep it kind of classic maybe. Red fabric, like every fantasy game of all time ever. Just like that. And we'll grab slightly bluish for the blade, maybe like a mid-tone, and play around with this range too. If I drop in a really bright blue with the sword, see what it does? It just explodes it. If I drop in a really dark color, it'll also kind of explode it. Actually, I kind of like that black blade look. Yeah, so edgy. But I think I'm gonna stick to like a light. If you keep it in the 50% range, it's not going to overlay any contrast. There's not going to be any difference in contrast, like lightness or darkness so much. It's going to be, I mean, I'm kind of speaking on my ass there, I think, because when you set something to overlay, it kind of keeps the blacks and the whites, but doesn't keep the grays. So if I set this to gray, slightly blue, essentially my value range should stay pretty similar. See that? It doesn't get darker or lighter, but it does keep the blue color. Also, I didn't really talk about this, but I merged my lines with everything else when I kind of collapsed this all. I just like to do that because I don't know, just kind of keeps this anchor point. Maybe this one I'll keep a little bit brighter. Yeah, this one's gold. Haha, this color scheme is so generic. I'll pick some magic gem should be. I also don't know a lot about color theory, but I think there's like triads and stuff like that, so you can pick like a nice color balance. I don't know. I'll pick blue for now. You can always change this after. Nothing's set in stone. The magical diamond of Zimazog inlaid over the gold of. Anyways, so those are the colors. I kind of had this all in one group. This is pretty fast. Like that was like 4 minutes or less. Right? So now I'm just gonna grab everything and go into my render group, duplicate it, merge it together, find this one, go in here. I hope that sound isn't too bad. One second, I'm just gonna pause it. I closed all my windows, I turned off all the fans. I rewatched what I had recorded, and holy crap, I'm so sorry for everybody that sat through that. I'm gonna see if I can change that in post, but I don't know much about post, so I'm sorry if it's really terrible. Yeah, I face an alleyway and there's a bunch of trucks back there, and very frustrating. But yeah, everything's closed and fans are off, so I think that should get rid of some of that rumble. Okay, so I think I made some changes since I worked on this for like 5 minutes or so, like just while the video was rendering. I just did a few changes in here, which was I made these cross guards a little bit longer. I kind of added some more design over here because I felt it was getting kind of boring. I'm probably going to drop in a bit of gold over here too. But anyway, so this stage is, I have this folder called the rendering folder. And at this point, this is kind of fun. This is just, I feel like this is the part everybody's always waiting to get to. It's, you can kind of sit down and just paint. And so you can kind of see some examples here. This has gotten the rendering pass done. So I'm going to usually start by making a selection of one of my colors. And if you're really smart, what you would have done is, geez, it's so wobbly. If you're really smart, what you would have done is set up masks for each material type, and then that way you don't have to make these selections over again. And of course, there's the siren, city music, like this. No, you know what? That's terrible. I'm gonna grab my Polygon Selection tool, nice clean lines. What I hate about the Polygon Selection tool is if you accidentally double tap, it's over. It's over. It closes the loop for you, and you might not be finished drawing your lines, and it creates this like lumpy mess of a weird selection. If anybody knows the solution for that, please tell me and write in the comments. I'd love to know if there's a way to get around that, because it's just absolutely terrible. I don't know why they. Well, that should be an option that should be, you know, should be able to choose. We deserve the choice. Okay. No, I forgot to do this. All right, what I'm doing here is I'm just making a selection of these and I'm shifting the colors around so they're not so boring. Right now, everything's kind of in the same color range. It's just like a darker and lighter version of each color. So I'm gonna go with that selection, go image, adjustments. Is this on the right screen right now? Can't even tell. 1 second. Yes, I think it's recording the right thing. Okay, sorry. So yeah, what I do here is I go image, adjustments, and selective color. And I click on colors. I choose black, so all the dark areas. And I kind of just shift the hue around. So you can kind of see how I'm shifting it, you know, a little bit more towards cyan, more towards red. And usually what I want to do is I want, if the shadows are warm, then I want the highlights to be cool, and vice versa. So, you know, we'll choose warm shadows. Maybe I'll go to neutrals as well and also push those to be a little bit warmer. And then I'll go to my whites and increase cyan. And because nothing in here is above 50% brightness, it's not really going to do much. So after this, I kind of have to go in and I'm going to manually, I'm going to grab blue, nice light color like that. I'm just going to paint that in like that, all these raised areas. I don't know if there's a good reason for this, like why people highlight with a cooler color and then shadow with a warmer color. There might be a really good reason for it. I just kind of always do it now by instinct, and I've kind of forgotten why I do it. I just do it. I guess it just makes it less boring, but I don't know if there's like a technical reason behind, you know, why. But anyways, yeah, so I'm just kind of painting these highlights. I remember the light's coming from top left. Eesh, this is not good looking. There we go. It's a bit better. Get in the shadow, grab this red color. Be a little darker and less saturated. I feel like this part takes a while, and I don't know how interesting this will be to watch, so I might maybe skip through parts of this. I don't know. Try to keep it short. looks mediocre. I'm going to go adjustments, replace color, select that highlight color I did, and I'm just going to change the hue maybe. Saturation. Okay, I'm going to go image, adjustments, selective color, or replace color. I'm going to choose all these shadow colors. I'm going to go to hue. This, lightness. Yeah, that's a bit better, I think. There we go. Now we go image, adjustments, brightness, contrast. Like really, I mean, really what you should have is reference open. I don't have reference open. It's not good. Okay. That's pretty good for that color range. Okay. And now I'm going to go Control-Shift-I, which will select the inverse of that. And then I'll go minus this one, and I'll minus the gem, and I'll just work with this blade. So I'll go image, adjustments, brightness, contrast. Ooh, dark, yeah, I like dark. So I go image, adjustments, replace color. So all the highlights. We'll bring it to a different hue maybe. Actually, I think the highlights are fine. Let's pick the shadows. Make the shadows warmer. Yeah, like that. Reduce the range. You know what I like to do sometimes too is I'll push it to the max. So, we do something like this. It's getting pretty wacky. Like, look at those colors. But if you go to edit, you can go fade. You can fade your last action. So I bring it to the extreme, and then I can just drag this slider to change the opacity of what I just did. Gives you a bit of extra control there. Okay, and then last I'm just going to grab the red cloth and image, adjustments, replace color. So I use replace color and a selective color a lot. Change this hue a little bit. Oh, yeah, blue handle maybe. There we go. And then I'm going to go image, edit, fade. So lower opacity. It's pretty good. We'll pick the highlights. Highlights will push more towards warm, so we'll go to like orange and less saturation. Might be a little too extreme what I did. This looks like really shiny or something right now. I'm just gonna plop these colors in like that. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I may have pushed it too far. If I push it that way, it's gonna look weird too. Hey, green looks pretty good. Maybe like an aqua. Hey, I kind of like that. Grab the shadow. More towards yellow, less saturated, darker. I don't think I have any green wraps yet. Again, where these areas are tighter, I'm kind of putting these little darker lines in there, like that. Cool. Okay, so let's go in here. Shadow color. I think this part of the video will be a little bit faster. I don't think there's as much to explain here. It's just kind of repeating the same thing over and over again. Don't know if I like those designs. I'll just leave those as is. Let's bring a brighter highlight to that sword. So warm in the shadows, cool in the highlights. I'm just using the chalk brush right now. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just the default one before somebody asks. It's over here a little bit. One thing I've kind of done in the past with swords is if I have a shadow, because it's metal, right? It's not going to reflect exactly how you'd expect. Sometimes what I do is if it's dark up here, and it's dark going down, and it's light at the bottom. I see this a lot actually. Then on this side you kind of do the opposite. You start light at the top, and you get darker at the bottom. And it's kind of up to you if you want like a gradient on here. I usually like having a gradient, so go dark at the top, goes down, it goes a little bit lighter. You can also notice how I'm getting less contrast as I go down the shaft. I think generally you want something like this because the reason for that is the focal point should be like this gem area, and then this nice little blade at the top, like the sharp point. I think it's really important. There's also going to be a bit of a bevel to the sword too, which means that, you know, to show it has thickness, I kind of want to highlight this edge a little bit. Maybe on the side, instead of a highlight, it's a shadow. It's just like the cutting edge. The cutting edge. You know, it's gold, so you can, or it's metal, so if you want, throw some of that gold color in there. Why not? It's probably going to reflect it anyways. Also, you could use like some bounce light with this blue gem too, but just gonna tilt this down a little bit. Cool. Okay, then in this area, if you want, you can start putting in some more details. But if you're keeping it stylized, don't put in too many details, right? Like, and if you do put details, keep them quite chunky. And just use the lighting to help define the plane changes as well. Oh, and the other thing too is, like, I keep forgetting to do this, but you know, have direction to your brush stroke. So if it's going in this direction, I kind of go the opposite way like this. Get these lines going up like that. It's up to you how long you want to spend rendering this. If you have just one sword, and you're going to post it to ArtStation, it's just one, then, you know, spend a bit of time rendering it out and make it look pretty and fancy and all that. But if you've got, like, if you're posting like 3 at a time, then I feel like you can afford to be a little bit rougher because, you know, there's more there and they're smaller because there's more. Remember those plane changes. Okay, if it's messy, you can always clean it up after. The magic A. I was talking a lot about, like, you know, just design theory and stuff you should do and stuff you shouldn't do. I'm breaking a lot of those rules, and just so you know, it's almost entirely by accident. It's just me forgetting these things while I'm painting. That's why in the sketch stage, like, it's best if you can kind of lock down what you want to do in your sketch stage, so you're not like, otherwise you just spend hours noodling on the render. It's never fun. This is already looking kind of weird here. I don't like that. It's getting dirty or something. You know what? This is going to overlap. So in order to show this overlapping, I'm going to increase this here, but I'm not going to make it as dark as the one below it. So now it kind of looks like it's sitting on top of the one below it. Another thing you can do too is go in here with a small brush and highlight these edges. So if I go in with my brightest highlight color, grab some of these edges and just pull them out with the highlight brush. I try not to do the whole thing all the way around. I try to sharpen it whenever it gets to an edge, and then kind of fade out the reflection as it leaves that edge, or as it leaves the corner. And again, this is just to avoid visual noise. You don't want to have highlights everywhere and shadows everywhere. It just creates noise. All this noise. Wow, this is... I'm not that happy with this right now. I'll be honest. I think the technique is there though. And that's what you all came here for anyways. Sharpen that highlight. You know, what if we were to drop in a couple gems here too? That's kind of cute. Just on a couple little blue things. Yeah, 17 minutes. I think for concept art, you just need to render to the point that it's obvious to the modeler what the shape is. So on something symmetrical like this, if you've already drawn it on one side, you don't need to render it out perfectly on the other side. You can be a little bit rougher, because they'll know. Oh, they'll know. I'm trying to leave a bit of my brush strokes visible. I think people like that shit. I know I do. Don't like how this tapers. You know what we put in here? We put in another gem. Magic blue gem. Actually, I rendered this wrong. It should be darker than that, probably. You know, if we're looking front on at a shiny object, and the light's coming from the top left, then, you know, we're going to get a reflection on this side of the light. That's going to be super shiny. Then on this side, we're not going to have as much. Bottom, we're probably not going to have much. The front view, we don't have anything, and that's why it gets kind of dark in there, and I want that. I want that dark appearance, because we're looking straight at it. We're looking straight through this. It's almost crystal clear, right? Grab this, darken this one. These can just be gestural. The highlight there. You know, depending on what kind of design this is, you know, we could add a ridge here maybe too. Which means we need highlight here, maybe one down here a little bit. And what we get on the other side is, I think, you know, I'm not an expert or anything, but whenever I've seen these kind of gems, it seems like all the saturation kind of leaks through on the other side, where if the light's coming in from the top left, then we're gonna get a bunch of like nice glowing reflections down here, and these are going to kind of create these like caustic effects on the glass or something, or on the gold or something over here. I don't know. That might look stupid. Again, I am kind of like rushing through this because it's a video and I don't know. Let's define this a little bit more. I'm going to grab this top face. Just to show that that's facing up. If you're feeling really cheeky, you can go in with the burn tool and add some contrast like that, or even go to your dodge tool. This is a dangerous game though. You don't want to blow out your highlights too much. 50%. No, we don't need to highlight at the bottom. It's not important. Every once in a while I go and hit Control U and I just change the hue a little bit. The only reason I do this is just to check if there's another version that I might like more. See, maybe something like this where the wraps are kind of brown, like regular leather. The saturation. I mean, usually I think that the base one is fine. Purple's kind of cool. Shift it more that way a little bit. I don't want to spend too long on all this kind of stuff because it is boring to watch, I think. The downside about keeping your pencil lines is like I want to highlight these edges, but because those pencil lines are there, it makes it a little bit more difficult. So it's kind of up to you if you want to keep them. Just by adding that line there and then darkening this little piece here, kind of create a bit of a plane change. I can zoom out, see if I like it. I do not like it, so I just back up. God, what was I thinking? If we go in here and add like, I just don't want to leave this blade just be like these solid metal chunks. I want there to be like something dope happening in there. Maybe it's like cracks or something. This. And inside we get like some blue. You know, as it gets away from the, I think the source would maybe be this ring. Maybe it holds like a lot of the power. So it comes out really bright and it leaves a little bit darker. Like that. That's kind of cool. No, it's not. You know what? Let's not do that. I'm already bored. let's just wrap this sucker up. I'm gonna put a highlight there, highlight here, highlight the edge, highlight on top of that. Go around to these and kind of pull out certain edges if you want. see how important that like value stage is, right? Like I'm not really doing too much in terms of painting. I'm kind of just dropping in some highlight edges to define these shapes a little bit more. Actually, a lot of what I'm doing right here is I learned from painting miniatures. If anybody plays Warhammer or anything like that, but a lot of these techniques are very similar. You want to highlight every edge. A bit shinier, you can tighten the highlight. It's like a silky material. There we go. Let's do this. Because I do want to show some effects as well, because I know that's something people have been asking about. So we'll do some glowy effects. If you really want that to pop more, you can grab the burn tool, set it to midtones, and just darken the sword a bit more. Cool. Grab this highlight color. Wow, just that one little thing, just darkening it, I think helps so much. You can add some cuts in here too. Remember, the sun's coming up the top left, so if there's a shadow here, there's gonna be a highlight over here. Try not to get too crazy with this, especially if it's a new sword. I don't want it to be too damaged. You guys see I'm just like popping in these edges like that? Grab the highlight, drop the bottom. I'm not gonna highlight that edge. I really hope you guys like looking at the top of my head, because all this time I didn't realize that that's all you're getting to see. I'm gonna add some texture, like these little dots and things. I'll try to think about what this is doing to the sword. I'm imagining it's just like a glowing thing, and it's like almost heating up the sword in a way. Maybe these could go up the side like this. Again, wherever you want to draw the eye, contrast. In this case, I'm not really giving a reason for why this area up here is darker. I'm not going to justify it. It's just there for artistic reasons. Oops. It's okay. I'll grab the dodge tool, highlights. That's pretty neat. I kind of like this. It almost looks like a crystal inlay or something. Like it's flush with the blade. It's pretty neat, I guess. Alright, I think I'm just gonna call this done. after I add some effects. All right, so for effects, we're at 30 minutes. So with my effects, these are some examples of ones I've already done. I'm going to just find some photos of, I don't know what this really feels like to me. Maybe lightning. I could use lightning, or what else would be good? Maybe some sort of caustic water effect. Oh God, my search is defaulted to Bing somehow. Google images. No. Alright, so I found some textures here that I like. I searched smoke texture. Now the important thing to think about when you're doing this is these are all photographs taken by photographers. Somebody spent time creating these smoke effects. Like, I don't know if they lit something on fire, then they took a nice picture of it. So just keep that in mind and be respectful when you're using these images, even if you don't know the person that did this. So don't like cover your image with one of these. They should just be used to accent it. And this one here is beautiful. Let's go copy this image, paste it in, scale it up. And again, it's not the image. Your concept should work without this effect. It shouldn't need this. Yeah, you don't want this to detract from it. Unless, you know, if you took this image yourself, if you created this, then I think that's fine. A lot of artifacting in here. That's pretty cool. And then we'll go Control L to get rid of some of those gray tones. We can set this to screen, maybe. Let's try that. And I'm going to copy this, hide it, just so I have the source. Use the lasso tool, delete all the stuff I don't want. Call that purple googly gook. Grab a soft eraser, kill those edges, kill these ones. Again, this should not be the thing that people care most about with this image. It should complement it. Let's see. I'm gonna grab this little thread over here. See if we can't make that bigger. Warp it a bit. I kind of want it to match the flow of the. Maybe almost like it's reaching up. It's trying to reach up to the top, and then it's kind of slipping down a little bit. I think it's really easy to overdo this kind of stuff. But I specifically want this to be subtle. Oh yeah, like this. Erase all stuff I don't need. Maybe I erased too much. Yeah, I don't know. It looks kind of messy to me. I don't know how I feel about that. That's okay. I'm just gonna add some of my own custom effects. I'm gonna use soft brush and add some soft glow here. Behind your sword. You can have the glow without it covering the model. we go. All right, I'm just gonna add one more thing, which is actually no, yeah, a couple more things. I want to add floaties. I love these little things. I don't know if there's a name for them, but I just love adding them. They feel so magical, and oh, look at those. Some of them are like coming out of here. The enchanted sword. Okay. Then you could duplicate this layer. You could set it to color dodge. Then you could set it to like filter blur, Gaussian blur, and change the amount. Nice. Then add a layer. Use that same mask. Don't worry, everybody, we're almost done. Hang in there. I'm gonna grab my brush again. Use my Nicolas Cage brush. I don't know if you can see that. I feel like I need to drop this in just so it matches the theme of my other video. You can kind of see that in there. It's just his face. And grab white. Love doing these little rim lights. So from the bottom left, there's a light, kind of bottom left and slightly behind there's a light. So on the underside of all these, you can add the slightest little hint of light. And for this, I'm also going to grab my tablet, set it more to firm so I can get more of a smooth gradient in there. Like that. See how this flap is kind of facing down a little bit more? That means it's going to get more of that rim light on the top. I kind of do this off like the whole thing, and then I just go in with an eraser after. So like this piece for sure should be like the brightest part of that rim light. Maybe over here too. And then what I do is I go in with my eraser. Since it's on a layer, I can just erase it from the top down a little bit. And maybe duplicate it. Erase that a little bit too. That looks okay. And if you want, you can do the same thing on the other side as well. Except for maybe this time a different color. So since this is mostly like blues and stuff, we could maybe pick a nice yellow highlight on this side. What you could do is maybe this side is a broader highlight, but a lot less intense. I don't know if I'm going to keep this. This might look really silly. Change the color if you like. Nope, I don't like it. Kill it. There we go. Okay, I'm going to call this done. So I'm going to grab everything here, make a new layer, Control-Shift-E, which flattens everything, save it, and what I like to do is just do a sharpen on everything too. So if we go to full size, it looks like this. Go to Filter, Sharpen, there's like a Smart Sharpen. You can kind of choose how much sharpness you want and what radius it'll be. So the high radius will probably be really, really crazy. It's weird, it's not doing anything. Okay, I'll do regular sharpen. Sharpen, sharpen. There we go. Let me play with the hue one more time. Anyways, yeah, just play around with it and find the hue that you really want. I think that's pretty much it. That's the workflow. That's all there really is to say. I hope that answered any questions people had. And holy fuck, that was long. It was 40 minutes just for the render and effects. So thanks for sticking with me if you did, and have a good day, everybody. Bye.